And if football's not your bag, then why not pack them for Marrakech, the Hebrides, or America's mountain state, Colorado? Just take a wee holiday.
This week I'm in France with a beginner's guide to a driving holiday abroad. I'll have some essential advice on how to cut the aggravation and how to enjoy the freedom of a go-anywhere holiday.
I'll be driving through the countryside and villages of Normandy. I'll also be picking our competition winner there. Gloria, Hunniford and Eamonn Holmes conclude their report from Marrakech. Fiona Foster goes island hopping around the Hebrides. And Eamonn goes west.
Howdy, and I'll be riding tall in the saddle in Colorado's cowboy country.
Despite the fact that it's never been quicker or easier to get across the Channel, a very small percentage of British holidaymakers actually take their own cars abroad. But with the opening of Eurotunnel in the near future and the ferry companies gearing up for the competition it'll bring, I'm taking a look at some of the problems and the pleasures a first-time self-drive holiday in France can bring. Our story starts in Newhaven.
When choosing your ferry crossing, you should consider which British port is nearest to your home and which French port is nearest to your holiday destination. Also, journey times vary considerably. I'm heading for Normandy, so I'm travelling from Newhaven to Dieppe. In the last couple of years, with the competition of Eurotunnel on the horizon, the ferry companies have transformed their fleet, turning them into mini cruise ships. Since the new year, the duty-free shop acts on behalf of customs. They won't allow you to buy more than the legal limit of duty-free.
No matter how comfortable and interesting cross-channel ferries are inside, on a choppy day like today, the best place is up on deck with plenty of fresh air and your eyes fixed firmly on the horizon.
Yes, I forgot to take the pills. Obviously, the first thing you have to remember when you arrive in France is to drive on the right, and there are several ways of reminding yourself. You might just want to stick a little note on the steering wheel, or it's worth remembering that if you're driving a British car, the driver is always next to the curb. Don't be tempted to drive too many miles on the first day. The ferry crossing can be tiring. When you do get going, France has an excellent network of over 3,000 miles of motorway. Most are privately owned, and you will have to pay for the stretch you use. The average toll for 100 miles is about £10. But if all you want to do is sleep when you get there, you can find accommodation readily at motels like the Formula 1 chain. What looks like a cash dispenser is actually the hotel check-in. The hotels are manned for only 8 hours a day, but a credit card is all you need to book a room and breakfast. You'll get a ticket with the combinations for both the door to the hotel and to your room. Disabled travellers will find special rooms and toilet facilities on the ground floor.
Well, this is the room. It's pretty basic. It's not en suite. There's a shower and a lavatory shared between 4 rooms, but it's clean, it's functional, it sleeps 3 people, and for around £16.50 per room, it's very good value.
The best way to explore France is to take it slowly, and one of the great pleasures of this kind of holiday is that you have the freedom to plan it as you go along. Normandy is rich with villages inviting you to stop and explore. Honfleur has been attracting tourists for nearly 200 years. English landscape artists like Bonington and Turner followed the River Seine and found Honfleur by the sea. It's packed with hotels, cafes and curio shops, yet it's managed to retain all its old-world charm. Even when the rules of the road are the same in both countries, custom and practice can be very different. This is a dangerous tool in France. In the UK, if you flash your lights at another motorist, it usually means that they have right-of-way. In France, it means just the opposite. You have right-of-way, so don't get the two confused. If you're looking for something a little upmarket, then France offers hundreds of grand houses that have been converted into luxury hotels. This one, the 5-star Belle-Île-sur-Île, is exquisite. Rooms start at £71 per night, half board. The Relais Chateau guide contains some excellent suggestions. It's available from the French Tourist Board. But more people prefer self-catering in France to anything else. There's a choice of more than 30,000 properties, from purpose-built coastal holiday villages to intimate cottages in the middle of nowhere. Many are old farm buildings. This half-timbered house is typical of the Norman countryside. It sleeps 7 and works out at £60 each per week. Of course, the more there are in your party, the cheaper it is. And holidaying off-season can save up to 30%. Some of these properties can be quite simply furnished, the popular Gîte de France, for example, while others, like this one, offered by a British holiday company, are very comfortable. But it's likely you'll have to bring all your own bed linen, and if the home is French-owned, then you may have to bring some British hardware as well, because it's unlikely you'll find a kettle, a teapot, a toaster, or even a mug. If you opt for a holiday that lets you live like the French, then you'll want to shop like the French. The slow pace of rural life is infectious, and you'll find that you can while away hours in local markets looking for cheap, fresh produce, or just taking in the spectacle. The French shopping experience, however, is the hypermarket. This one, the Mammouth, on the outskirts of Dieppe, is a good place to stop before you catch the ferry home. Hypermarkets offer a huge range of high-quality foods. Although British supermarkets have improved over the last few years, their continental counterparts have many more surprises to offer. Judicious shopping can recoup the cost of your ferry travel more easily when the exchange rate is favourable. Drink is cheaper, and the change in customs regulations means there's now no limit on the duty-paid alcohol you can take home.
But if you go over a certain limit, something like 110 litres of beer or 90 litres of wine, then when you get home, it's likely that customs will ask you to prove that it's for your own use. I've yet to work out how you do that.
Obviously, holiday prices vary enormously depending what you choose to do, but to start you off, the cost of the car ferry crossing from Newhaven to Dieppe for up to 5 people starts at £68. The self-catering accommodation in the old farm building that you saw costs £60 a week per person if you fill it, and it can be booked through Just France. If you want someone to organise your driving holiday for you, the French Holiday Service will suggest an itinerary and plan it. In this week's Traveller's Checks, we have 3 suggestions for economical driving holidays in France. First, we found a holiday that costs just over £12 a week per person, a 2-week camping trip to the Loire Valley. The total cost for a family of 4 is £99 if you spend the first night there before the 9th of May. The price includes your car ferry and accommodation in a luxury tent. Next, we have a week's self-catering in a gîte or holiday home in Abbeville in northern France. It costs about £39 each, depending on which gîte you choose, and includes your car ferry. Departures are in April and May from Ramsgate. Finally, a fortnight in the south of France for £75 per person. That buys you self-catering accommodation near Montpellier in a 7-berth mobile home. The total cost for 6 people is £454 and includes a saving of £152. Departure is by hovercraft from Dover on the 12th of June.
The American state of Colorado is perhaps best known for its winter skiing resorts of Aspen and Vail, but with a new international airport opening in the state capital of Denver this October, it's being tipped as an up-and-coming destination for summer and autumn holidays as well. Eamonn Holmes has been on the trail of the Wild West, starting in Durango.
There's an old saying, which you probably heard before, but which is especially true in these here parts. And that is, if you want to get ahead, get a hat. Now, Kevin, this may seem a pretty stupid question to you, but a lot of people in Europe will want to know, why do people in America still wear cowboy hats in this day and age?
Well, over here it's a very functional piece. It protects you from the sun, the elements.
What are you doing to me now? What's this?
This piece here just takes your head shape.
And what about my head shape? Would it be pretty average?
Maybe over in your country it's average, but it's a little strange for these parts.
These parts may look like a movie set, but they're all the real McCoy. Durango, Colorado, 90 minutes south of Denver by plane, and centred amongst some of the most spectacular scenery in the States. All around, boomtown buildings enjoying a new boom in tourism. This will be my base for the holiday, and the General Palmer Hotel was where I laid my hat.
If you want, you can even let the western feel of Durango extend to your accommodation. Sounds though they're playing my tune. There really is some great atmosphere in old places like this. Only walls could talk.
Durango was a base for the gold mine trains. Today, those same trains carry tourists on an extraordinary journey. Set the best part of the day aside for this trip and book it in advance. Go for the open-sided carriages, which will give you an incredible panoramic view. But the soot from the engine, it gets everywhere. Okay, Mr. Conductor, tell me this. You can do the journey Durango-Silverton in under an hour in a car, but why do so many people then want to spend 3.5 hours on this?
Well, I'll tell you, the journey here is not unlike that of the highway. Basically, from Morocco to Silverton, this is the only way in and out.
Is this the area at its most beautiful in the fall?
I think so. The aspens turning, some of them go from green to yellow and almost to an orange color. So it really is pretty right now. It looks like the hills are on fire.
At the end of the line, Silverton, and there was a stranger in town. In fact, there were a lot of strangers in town. Silverton only comes alive when the train arrives. You can stay overnight, but most tourists spend just a couple of hours before the afternoon train back. But with all that smoke, if your lungs can't take the 3.5-hour return rail trip, then there are buses available. But the Iron Horse got me back to Durango in time to watch the odd wild horse. The Durango Rodeo, a rather modest affair, but all the better for it, and clearly not put on just for tourists. A chance for local ranchers to show off their prowess, or lack of it. Here, the modern cowboy's more at home in a jeep than on a horse. To get the best from a holiday like this, you've really got to hire a car, which isn't really that expensive in America, either to rent or to buy petrol. And once you're on the road, you can drive for hours without seeing a soul. These are the San Juan mining trails, perfect for ghost hunting, or ghost town hunting to be precise. Abandoned mining villages litter the hillsides. Eerie relics of bygone silver and gold rushes. Today's gold, though, is on the trees, and jeeping isn't the only way to appreciate the glorious autumn colours. So as the Duke would say, get on your horse, pilgrim. That's just what I did with Ben Breed, who runs daily trips just outside town.
So what do people get out of coming out on the range and through the wilds then, Ben?
What do they get out of it?
Yeah.
Well, usually they get a sore butt. In all seriousness, they love the countryside, you know, they love the mountains, the hills. It's a great thing for them to get away, you know, from their city life, hustle and bustle of the city, you know, that kind of thing. We have a tendency to take it for granted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is truly the first time you've ever been on a horse.
Truly, truly.
You're really doing well, I'll tell you.
I have to say.
Yeah, you're doing great, Eamonn. Doing great.
All these movies have stood by me.
I can see a certain amount of male bonding between you and him. That's a laugh. I like to see that.
Especially when you come down a hill like this.
No, you're doing fine.
Male bonding, I like that.
Ben's ranch is in a place called Purgatory. If this is purgatory, I can't wait to get to heaven.
A week's fly drive in the summer with American Dream costs from £549 per person. The price includes return flights and a car. A room at the General Palmer Hotel is from £40 per person and $50 if you want a 4-poster bed. In this week's Traveller's Tips, we're staying with the theme of driving holidays in France with a few more important points to bear in mind. The minimum age to drive in France is 18 and not 17 as it is here. French law used to give priority to drivers entering from the right onto a main road or roundabout, but now this sign means that priority is the same as in the UK, whereas this sign indicates that priority must be given to traffic entering from the right. It's advisable to carry a red warning triangle and buy a conversion kit which adjusts your headlights so that the beam is deflected from oncoming traffic. You must by law put a GB sticker as close as possible to your rear number plate. And finally, it's essential to check your insurance cover. Your fully comprehensive policy may only give you third-party cover abroad.
Island hopping is an activity normally associated with the Greek islands, but closer to home, the Hebrides off the west coast of Scotland can offer a more unusual holiday experience. Fiona Foster set off for the island of Colonsay from the port of Oban on the Scottish mainland.
It's changed all right, it's changed a lot. Some of it for the best and some for the worst.
One noticeable change is the ever-increasing number of tourists who come to the Hebrides. Even so, the ferry to the tiny island of Colonsay operates just 3 times a week.
Well, it's nice living on the island because you know everybody, but it can cause problems at times.
Every time you go away, when you come back, you're impressed by just what a beautiful place it is.
So the bottom line is, if you're looking for extensive nightlife and great shopping, then I'd forget it. If, on the other hand, what you want is beautiful scenery, a slower pace of life, and you've a fondness for sheep, then this could be just about perfect. The Colonsay Hotel is just that, the hotel on Colonsay. Kevin Byrne is owner and local weather expert.
Now, the weather forecast for Scotland. The present settled weather is likely to continue, and with well-broken cloud, it'll remain dry.
Weather makes all the difference here. Whether the ferries can sail, whether you can make the most of the spectacular scenery. I'm about to meet Keith Rutherford, the man with more jobs on this island than anybody else. He's petrol pump attendant, he owns a general store, he's the sub-postmaster, he's a coastguard, he's a fireman, and he's also postman. This is his post van, but it doubles as a bus, and if you wave him down, he'll stop. How many people are there living here now?
55 residents. That's just the one road which does a circle of the island.
Every summer, tourists more than double the island's population, most of whom work in farming.
Fine, it's not a bad day.
No bills for me.
The school has just 4 pupils and was only attached to the national electricity grid 10 years ago. Don't miss the post here. Oronsay, Colonsay's neighbour, is only reachable at low tide. Get the timing right and see its 14th century priory. It's not St Andrews, but the green fees must be the cheapest in Britain, £5 a family a year, and a whole flock of greenkeepers keeping the rough down for you.
Rain affecting northwestern areas, such as Skye and Fort William, will move south and west during the day, reaching the Western Isles, the Glasgow area.
It's a 1¼ hour ferry journey to the island of Islay. The weather's gone off a bit, so it's time to move indoors. Islay has around 4,000 inhabitants and no fewer than 7 whisky distilleries. Not bad going for an island just 30 miles wide and 30 miles long. It's not that conditions here are particularly good for whisky making. It's just that in the 18th century, there was no excise officer posted to Islay to collect taxes. As a result, the whisky industry here just went from strength to strength. Twice a day, there's a free guided tour around the Bowmore Whisky Distillery. Is this what's meant by having a quick snifter? On to the Islay Woolen Mill. Its 19th century looms wove the cloth for Tom Cruise's costumes in the film Far and Away.
The rain presently affecting the whole of Scotland will die out. With the Glasgow
Time to brave that bracing Scottish weather again, but not before getting suitably kitted out.
Visitors come back year after year to enjoy this tranquil beauty, and I'm not surprised.
Now the shipping forecast issued by the Meteorological Office at 2343, the general synopsis at 1900. High 100 miles west of Rockall, 1031, drifting slowly southwest with little change.
Fiona's 6-day holiday with Scotsell costs £392. That price includes half-board accommodation in hotels and car ferry crossings. Alternatively, you could fly from Glasgow to Islay with Loganair. The cost of that is £66. Details of this and all the other destinations featured in tonight's programme can be found on CFAX, page 688.
Last week, we asked Gloria Hunniford to find a weekend package break to Marrakech, and hot on her heels, Eamonn Holmes to discover the pros and cons of independent travel by making his own way to one of Morocco's most popular cities. Well, we left Gloria settled in her hotel, but Eamonn's still trying to find suitable accommodation and someone to help him sort it all out.
From what I've been able to glean so far, the best bargain in Marrakech is to be found not in the marketplace, but at the tourist office, and that's a guide. I've wasted some time getting lost since I arrived, so the heat is on.
And the heat was on for me as well.
Right, things are looking up. This could be the answer to my prayers. Meet Mohammed. For 100 dirhams, yeah? 100 dirhams a day.
Yes,
that's
sir.
about £7. You can have your own personal guide. Mohammed is mine. Pleased to meet you.
Assalamu alaikum.
We have a lot to do.
Yes, sir.
First thing, I want to hire a car. Can I hire a car?
Yes, sir. No problem. Let's go.
Okay, great.
Watch out for those treats by the pool. They can really mount up. For example, it's £4.50 for a gin and tonic.
Staying in a hotel, which is fine, but what about something a wee bit more traditional? I wouldn't mind finding out a bit more about the real Marrakech.
Well, these kinds of hotels, we can find them in the old town, which is called the Medina.
Sure we're going the right way?
Yes, we are. Oh. It's not far, it's just down here.
Down here?
Yes, it's not that far.
This is like a Grand National, this is.
Be careful, don't fall.
Come a crumper at the first fence. This better be good, this place.
It's a highly recommended hotel. It's in our guide.
Certainly away from it all, isn't it? Wow.
And this is a traditional Moroccan hotel. It's a very nice one. Oh, look at this. It's very nice.
Gorgeous. I've never seen anything like this before.
That wall, separates the old parts of the city from the new parts.
The tour company has arranged a guide for me. He's informative but not cheap. It's another £21 a day.
Well, here you go. 2 double beds, wash-hand basin. It's basic, it's clean, and it's £7 a night.
Bin has brought me to the souk for some shopping, but besides helping me barter, he spent much of his time keeping a lookout for pickpockets and beggars. They can make you feel really uneasy, and I was very glad of the guide's watchful eye, but there are some wonderful bargains to be had.
So, have car, will travel. With Mohammed at the wheel, getting around couldn't be simpler. Lunch was way off the beaten track at La Roserie, nestled at the foot of the Atlas Mountains.
Look at this.
Wow, wow, you have come up trumps, Mohammed, my friend. Snow on the mountains, sun by the pool. You're really opening up Marrakech for me. I'm enjoying this. This is the business.
A good way to round off the break is a coach trip to the Fantasia on the outskirts of Marrakech. £20 a head will buy you a parade of Moroccan folklore and a banquet under the stars.
Last evening in Marrakech, and Mohammed has brought me to the town square, Jema El Fna, the Assembly of the Dead. It was anything but that.
What about food? There's so much on display. Is it all safe to eat? Is it all hygienic?
It's all hygienic. That's why you see a lot of people eating here.
But not many tourists. Despite my guide's enthusiasm, I decided to err on the side of caution.
I should have done. Each of my 4 courses comes complete with its own dancing troupe, and when in Marrakech...
So many people, so many costumes, so many smells. And the only other thing bound to get up your nose, so many hustlers. But at least I was experiencing Marrakech, warts and all.
This type of evening out is, of course, touristy, but it's highly entertaining and well controlled compared with the uneasiness of night in the marketplace.
And the cost of those holidays? Well, Gloria's 3-night half-board package with Hayes and Jarvis cost £351, including flights and transfers. The guide is an extra £21 a day, and taxis set her back a further £46, making £460 in total. Eamonn's trip cost £200 for the return flight, £39 for hotel accommodation, £80 for car hire, £14 for a guide for a couple of days, and £70 for other items such as taxis and guidebooks, making his a total of £403.
Finally tonight to our competition. Now, we asked you to solve 10 clues, and by filling in the grid with your answers you were able to find another mystery word which turned out to be Antipodean. Very appropriate, of course, because our first prize this year is a luxury trip to Australia. Now, we had almost 250,000 correct entries. We've brought them all with us to Honfleur so we can pick the winners. So here goes. My heart is in my mouth as I do this. This is for the first prize. Our first prize winner, I'm not going to tell you yet who it is. Our second prize, I think, should come from this side. Let's give it a go. Right. This is our second prize. Goes on top of that one. And finally, I think our third prize will come from the top here. Let's delve down a bit. This is our third prize winner tonight. Right, so in reverse order, the third prize, which you may remember, is that luxury trip for 4 people staying at a chateau for a week, the Chateau Garibaldi. It's a magnificent chateau just outside Cannes in the south of France. And the winner of that prize is Mrs. Patricia Smith of Bourton-on-Dunsmore, Rugby, Warwickshire. So congratulations to you, Patricia. We'll be in touch with you very shortly. The second prize, that is that trip for 2 people for 2 weeks around the glorious Far East, taking in Hong Kong, Bangkok and Koh Samui. The winner of this prize is Sandra Mills of Woodingdean, Brighton. And finally, our first prize, we did hint at it earlier, that trip to Australia for 2 weeks. First week is spent in the luxurious Park Hyatt Hotel in Sydney, and then another week is up at the Great Barrier Reef. You can be snorkeling, swimming, scuba diving to your heart's content at that Lizard Island resort. 4 people will be able to enjoy this holiday. And our winner is Mrs. O.M. Frost of Stoke Gabriel, Totnes in South Devon. So congratulations to all our prize winners. We'll be in touch with you all very shortly. Commiserations to all the people here who didn't win, I'm afraid. You've got the answer right, but as you can see, it really is the luck of the draw. And with that, that just about brings us to the end of tonight's programme.
Next week I'll be in North Wales checking out that old favourite of British holidaymakers, the holiday camp at Pontins in Prestatyn. And we take a look at an inexpensive winter sunshine holiday in the Gambia.
So until next week, goodbye.
And details from tonight's holiday reports on Marrakech, France, Scotland and Colorado can be found in the April issue of BBC Holidays magazine.